So you're buying or selling property and you're wondering about the components of an inspection process, which isn't just for buyers to inspect a house that they're buying. I also recommend that sellers of homes, when I'm doing a listing, do a pre-inspection as far as not having things come up later that are a surprise to them during the buyer's inspection process. So this video is about covering 16 components of the kind of facets of the inspection process, good things to know, when should it happen, how long does it take, should I be there, what are the components, what are things to watch for, the right questions to ask. That's what we're covering today in this video, is 16 things you should know about the inspection process in a home, whether you're selling or buying, because you don't know what you don't know, and I'm going to help you learn today. I connect with people just like you every day to help them discover where to live and invest in real estate and sell property for top dollar when the time is just right for them. My name is Leif Jacobson. I'm an ex-cop turned realtor, also known as Safe Leif. If you're new to this channel, subscribe so you're first to learn about Colorado real estate, all things Colorado real estate. My contact information is below. I'm excited to hear from you. Reach out by text, call, or email after this video, and I will look forward to hearing from you. You can also book a calendar event, and I will reach out to you, whatever works best for you. The first thing we'll cover today, reference the 16 points we're going to cover, is what is a home inspection, what happens, and should I even have one? So the answer is yes, in general, that you should have a home inspected. Inspectors are trained to look for hundreds of nuances and cues that are things that you should be aware of, whether you're selling or buying property. So inspections are all about going in eyes wide open, so we minimize the chance. No, inspectors are humans. I'm not perfect, neither is an inspector, but they have very specific protocols and processes to go through, because the goal is to minimize the chance of having surprises or things that you aren't aware of after the fact. Whether you're selling a house and the buyer comes forward with their inspector, whether you're buying a house and you close on it and after the fact, you don't want to be surprised by things. So it's all about full disclosure. It's all about eyes wide open and the process going in, knowing what the issues are, just because there may be dozens of issues involved in an inspection, and a lot of those are minor things that can be tweaked over time or things that weren't maintained very well. It doesn't necessarily mean that you shouldn't buy a house. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't sell a house. All those things are all about full disclosure and being aware of those things, so you know what you need to be taking care of and what you need to be maintaining after the fact versus not. So it's all about going in, having maximum knowledge and information to make the best decision for yourself. The second thing we'll cover is, when is the right timing for an inspection? The right timing is as soon as possible in either case. Whether you're selling a house, you want to do that right away so you have the maximum chance to take care of anything that you want to so it doesn't come up later. And when you're buying a house, the moment you get under contract, we want to schedule that inspection. So the contract process lasts about 30 days. Once you have an offer accepted, that's the moment you're under contract to buy a property. There are two things that are required right away. Earnest money needs to be turned in right away. That's usually required within a couple business days of going under contract. And the next thing we get on right away is the inspection process, because there are other components like the appraisal that's going to happen a little later throughout the process, and you want to get on those as soon as you can, but you don't want to initiate those because those cost money until the inspection process is done. Because if you inspect a house and decide not to move forward or become aware of things that are prohibitive as far as you moving forward, you might not want to move forward, and you don't want to pay for an appraisal on a house where you're not going to move forward after the inspection process. So there's a careful sequence and a chronological sequence and numerous dates and deadlines that we go through that's all in the offer that we put forward that dictates the process and the time frame for moving forward. So as soon as you can initiate the inspection process, the sooner you'll be aware of whether you're going to move forward, and you can save yourself money by not moving forward in a process and paying for additional steps if with the purchase of a property or a house that you're not going to move forward with. So the answer is you want to schedule that as soon as possible in either case or either scenario. The fourth thing I'll address is home inspection versus an appraisal. Some people don't know the difference, and that's okay. So the inspection process is a time for you to have a full inspection performed of the property, and also anyone buying can hire a professional inspector to come and perform an inspection of the property as well. So that's a top to bottom, ground up inspection process of all the components, finishes, structure, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as well. An appraisal is a valuation of the property. So Appraisers, depending on some federal programs, appraisers can be more kind of partially in the shoes of an inspector. They can be seen as performing some of the components that an inspector would. When you get into FHA loans and VA, purchasing programs through Fannie and Freddie, which are federal loan entities that insure mortgages, you can have some kind of components of the inspection process. They're looking for, peeling paint, electrical issues that are a safety hazard. They're mainly health and safety issues that they're looking for. But in general, the appraisal process is a numbers spreadsheet process looking at recent purchase prices of homes and valuating what the home is worth. So the lender, most people are not paying cash for a house or for a property. Most people are taking out a mortgage loan, and the mortgage entity doesn't want to lend you more money than a house is worth, nor is that in your best interest as well. So the mortgage entity, whoever you're taking a loan out through or performing your lending through, will hire a third party. Through a third party, they'll hire an appraisal company to evaluate the property to make sure that you're not overpaying for property and make sure that the value comes in right at where you're purchasing at. So that's the difference. The inspection process is a hands-on inspector process at the house, inspecting the structure, the components, and the finishes. The appraisal process is kind of more of a back-end process that's a quick on-site inspection, but mainly that's a back-end process running the numbers to see what other homes within a radius and within a time frame have purchased for or have sold for to ascertain the value of the property. That's the difference between the two. The fifth question that people ask and I want to address is, how long does the inspection process take? It takes actually hours typically to thoroughly inspect a property. If you bring in an inspector and they're done within 20 minutes, I'm wondering respectfully how much of a thorough job they've done inspecting the property. It should take an inspector 2+ hours, for a townhome, condo, for a smaller single family home, couple hours minimum to perform the inspection process. You get into larger properties or properties with more structures or more complexity with numerous structures on the property, you might be up into 3, 4, 5 hours for an inspection process. So that's how long they typically take. I'd plan on about 3 hours in general for the inspection process. That's how long you should plan on. And the results typically are a good inspector is taking dozens or hundreds of pictures and recording video of any issues or concerns that he or she sees, and they'll turn in their report typically within about 24 business hours, something like that. Some of them are compiling the report as they go, every picture they take, every video they take, and every explanation they're providing is compiling the report. So sometimes you'll have the report within an hour or two of them finishing, but usually by the next business day is a general time frame to receive the inspection report back. The sixth question lots of folks ask is, do I need to be present for the inspection? And the answer is no, you don't need to be, but I strongly encourage, whether sellers or buyers, the clients be present for the inspection process. There's lots to learn throughout the inspection process. It's an inspection not just for the professional inspector you hire, but also for you. It's a chance for you to look top to bottom, every nook and cranny, under and behind things, in and out, underneath, on top, throughout the house. So I encourage people to perform their own inspection in addition to and regardless of hiring a professional inspector. Just because you're hiring a professional doesn't mean you should just kick back or not pay attention. This is your house that you're spending hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars on in general, and it is going to behoove you to be a part of the inspection process. The inspector can also be a fabulous resource for you. So the inspector can answer lots of questions that you may have. They can also help you understand the systems and components of the house that are not always easy to find or understand, and sellers don't always do a great job of helping you understand how to maintain or what to do or not do in maintaining the systems and actuating the systems of the house. So it is very beneficial for you to be there during the inspection process. Some people don't want to be there, and it's not necessarily, I wouldn't say, to be there for the whole 3 hours or 3.5 hours of the inspection process. Lots of my clients come in toward the end of the inspection process. So they'll come in the last hour or so as the inspector's finishing up, and so they're not left to be there for hours, but they do have a chance to inspect themselves and ask any questions or address any concerns. And the inspector can also debrief with you in person, even though you'll have the inspection report, which often contains videos and hundreds of pictures. It's super in-depth. It's nice to be there and kind of get their synopsis from them in person, and they can address any concerns that you have. There's nothing like dialoguing with that rather than just getting a report, which are often 15, 20, 25 page reports in the end. It's nice for you to be there to ask any questions, and he or she, the inspector, can address any kind of red level or egregious level concerns that they have that are more immediate things and or high dollar things that they have immediate concerns about. So it's easy to get or nice to get more in-depth explanations of those, and be able to dialogue with the inspector toward the end of the inspection. The seventh thing we'll talk about is what inspectors are looking for. What are they doing in their protocol as far as the inspection? They're looking for maintenance issues, the condition of the house, how well it's been maintained. They're looking for potential problems, especially those that are costly for you to repair. So they're looking for cracks in the foundation, looking for roof leaks and or evidence of water damage at some point that's been either taken care of legitimately or not so legitimately. They're looking at structural systems, including HVAC, electrical, and plumbing systems. They're basically doing top to bottom. They can't see everything. None of us can see through walls. Short of a thermal imaging machine can see some water damage issues and that type of thing. They'll have some few tools like that. Some use X-ray, machines in order to see behind and inside walls. So you can't see all the interior components of a house. Sometimes the foundation walls on the inside will be insulated. You can't see the concrete to see if there's cracking there. So you can't, sometimes all those things are not available to get your eye on and do a visual inspection. But in general, they have a list they're going through of hundreds of items, and they're inspecting those top to bottom and going through theirs in a very linear fashion and documenting as they go. The eighth thing I'll cover is dealing with issues as they come up during the inspection process. There are minor things, kind of mid-level things, and then there are significant things that cause great concern, typically when coming through the inspection process. Well, not on every inspection. Sometimes there are no, and that's the goal, of course, is to not have any major concerns. But sometimes there are, and we kind of grade, low, mid, and high-level concerns through the inspection process. And there's a number of ways to address those or deal with those. So with minor concerns and minor maintenance stuff, I strongly encourage clients to not nitpick and nickel and dime on little stuff. Sellers don't like that. You wouldn't like that either when you come to selling the property yourself. And a home is something that needs to be maintained over time. It's going to require money and time and effort for you to maintain it well and keep it in good shape. So you should go into buying any property knowing that there are some minor routine maintenance things that you need to perform yourself. So I don't recommend that basically buyers come forward with an inspection report that has 37 things on it and just cut and paste that in and request that the seller deal with every one of those, regardless of the type of market conditions we're in. I don't feel like it's honoring for them. Some of those are tiny issues, replacing a light switch plate, that may be cracked, that's 50 cents from Home Depot. I just recommend taking care of those things yourself. Inspections in general, in my opinion, are for bigger ticket items, larger items, and areas of greater concern that people might not want to or be able to financially handle taking care of themselves. A roof, for instance, as far as hail damage in Colorado and that type of thing. If you have a roof that's not in great shape, it's easily up into the $10,000, $15,000, $25,000 range to replace a roof. And if it was damaged prior to when you're going to purchase it, and it's something the seller maybe should have dealt with themselves, and or they can have their insurance company replace it. Yes, they'll have a deductible to pay, but it's not going to cost them the entire $20,000 or whatever the bill is for the roof. Typically, they just pay their deductible and the roof is taken care of by their insurance company. So it may be a huge benefit and appropriate for them to take care of that. The damage happened kind of on their watch when they own the house, and they may or may not have even been aware. Sometimes we'll have hailstorms and have damage that happens when we're not even aware of it. But that's part of the inspection process, is to be aware of those things, take notice of those things, and deal with those things right up front. So if there's major issues like that or big ticket items, it can be helpful to have those addressed. And that's all part of the negotiation process, where I advocate for you and your best interest as a buyer of a home. We're talking on the buy side, where if we come across issues like that and we don't want you to have tens of thousands of dollars cash outlay once you purchase the property, which you're already spending money acquiring the property, we don't want to have you spend money after the fact, all things considered, when it's something that the seller may have taken care of. So we may come forward with some major or more considerable issues like that and ask the seller to work with us on those and take care of some of those. And it might be part of the negotiation process, or maybe they, instead of taking care of something, they might reduce the purchase price and have you take care of those yourselves. So that's all part of things that I mitigate during the negotiation process. And we're still in negotiation even after we get an offer accepted and we're moving through the process, we're still negotiating. And if you come up with something that is prohibitive or something massive as far as a huge dollar amount, or something that's a safety or a structural concern for the house, then you have the ability through the contingency process to not move forward if we can't come to an agreement, if we can't get the seller to address something or work with us for everyone's benefit in a win-win scenario, which is always my goal. Then you may decide to terminate the agreement and not move forward with the purchase. And that's your prerogative, and it's partly my job is to be an advocate for you in that and make sure that you can get your earnest money back as a deposit you put down initially if you're not going to move forward with the purchase of the house. So I'm protecting you in that, just in case, depending on how things go or don't go as far as moving forward. Number 9 that we'll talk about is the limitations of home inspectors. They're people too, they're just humans, and they're general building inspectors, and they are not necessarily structural engineers. They don't have other expertise as far as water or drainage issues, topography and stuff like that. So the general inspector may see something that he or she keys on during the inspection, and they may recommend calling in a professional as far as addressing those things. And they may do things like not walk on the roof. Sometimes the inspector, or most times the inspector, wants to go up and walk on the roof, kind of feel out those shingles or the metal, depending on what the roofing material is made out of. But it may not be safe and or appropriate. It may damage material. In order to walk, some tile roofs are not appropriate and or it'll void the warranty if you get up there and walk on them, or can cause damage. There are solar panel roofs where each shingle is technically a solar panel. There are roofs that are extremely expensive and you need to be careful not walking on them. So inspectors are doing a general and thorough job for you, but there are limitations for where they'll go, what they will look at, and what they will provide as far as recommendations and in how they consider the property and where they refer you to. So they may require other specialists, or recommend, not require, they may recommend other specialists to come in to take a closer look at things that they key on during their inspection. Number 10, we'll talk about the components of the inspection process. There are a number of different kind of categories that the inspector will go through as he or she is inspecting the house or structures. So there's structural components such as foundation, floors, stairs, walls, ceiling, the roof, the structural members. Sometimes you can see the framing in the garage. A lot of times inside the house it's covered by sheetrock, of course, but they'll assess the whole structure for everything that they can observe, and they can put eyes and ears and touch and feel. The exterior, wall coverings, exterior doors, decks, balconies, porches, eaves, retaining walls and walkways, driveways, the grading of the property and whether that grades in toward the foundation may cause water or drainage issues, and surface drainage issues. The interior, they're looking at all of the finishes inside the house, again, the ones that they can observe, such as cabinets, doors, windows, installed appliances, including microwaves, dishwashers, and food waste grinders. We'll look at all the systems. And then the last thing is the systems such as plumbing, electrical, heating, insulation, where they can see it, and ventilation of the house. So they can't necessarily see things that are enclosed in all of the walls, but they'll have tools and resources where they can assess as best they can. And a lot of those things, if you're having issues with those, a lot of those systems will be symptomatic and manifest themselves in ways that you cannot see, that you can see, even though there are components that you can't see, like the plumbing and the piping behind the walls you cannot see. But when that plumbing leaks, almost everybody experiences water damage at some point during their lifetime, unfortunately. And when that happens, it comes through the drywall, and you can see the effects of that in water damage in other places, whether it's flooring or carpet and or tile, delaminating wood. Water has detrimental effects on most finishes that are put into a house. So we can often see the symptoms of those and the results of those without being able to see the plumbing itself or the system itself. Number 11 that we'll cover are exclusions. There are some things that inspectors generally will not cover, and some of those things are exterior features that are attached or detached from the house, including screens, shutters, awnings, seawalls, break walls. They may tell you about the condition of those a little bit, but they're not necessarily doing a detailed inspection of all of those components. Recreational facilities, things like swimming pools, tennis courts, basketball courts, and docks may require specific industry standard inspectors to come and take a look at those. Other exterior features that are distanced from the house, such as fences, boundary walls, landscaping, geological and soil conditions, may need a specialist to come in or an engineer to come in and take a look at those. And specialty testings, things like asbestos, radon gas, which is specific to a few states, that's a concern. Lead paint, toxic mold, and pest damage are things that may require more of specialty tests to be performed or different inspectors to come in and take a look. Some other interior things and features that they may or may not look at are paint, wallpaper, floor coverings, window treatments, certain appliances and appliance functions, including household appliances and venting equipment. The 12th thing we'll talk about is how to find a good home inspector. Home inspectors are not all created equal, just like humans are not all created equal, and a good home inspector is worth their weight in gold. A good home inspector is thorough, is linear, and going through a systematic process, assessing structure and property top to bottom, left to right, all the way through. So they're very linear in that and organized in that, but they also are reasonable in what they pay attention to and what they kind of pass over, or things that they allow to kind of go by the wayside. Some minor maintenance issues. All property has maintenance issues. No property is in perfect condition. I can say that 100%. There's no property that is in absolutely perfect condition. I'm not a home inspector myself, but I can always find things that need to be maintained better or repaired in a different way, or things that need to be done to property. So it's not a black and white process. The home inspection process is all about the 30,000 foot view. It's all about keeping perspective and keeping in mind things that will cause significant financial or other concern for you as you're looking at buying a property, and things you'll have to do or maintain and upkeep on a property. But some inspectors, respectfully, can make mountains out of molehills and dwell, kind of major in the minors. We've all heard that term. Reference dwelling on smaller issues and tiny little maintenance issues that are just like, I mean, every house has those and people have to deal with those. Some inspectors will make larger issues out of smaller issues that shouldn't be. And so I appreciate inspectors who are level-headed, who are thorough at what they do, but also level-headed and have healthy and balanced perspective in the things that they're recommending and the issues that they're bringing up that may be a concern. So I work with high integrity, high quality inspectors who are just that, who are balanced and fair and level in their assessment of places. I love to be able to recommend inspectors. In the end, it's up to you who you hire. They're your inspector, you're paying for them, and you hire whoever you want. But I can provide outstanding recommendations for inspectors who are, again, balanced and have integrity in how they inspect and the components that they address. Number 13 is a question I get all the time, which is new construction. Do I need to have a brand new house inspected by an inspector? And the answer is you don't need to. So the answer is technically no, but I recommend that all people buying even new construction through a builder, a new construction house, I highly recommend having that house inspected. Even though it's been inspected by city, county, or state inspectors, it is going to behoove you in general to have a house inspected. Builders are looking for their own best interest in general, which doesn't mean they're doing anything bad or wrong necessarily, but they're looking out for themselves in the inspection process. They also have hundreds of components that they're going through, and they're human as well, and they may miss things and or utilize subcontractors that may miss things as far as details that should be taken care of and or adhere to International Building Code. So I highly recommend that people have homes inspected, even if you're working with me, representing you and your best interest in a new construction build. I highly recommend an inspection and having an inspector perform an inspection on a brand new house. I have yet to have an inspector that does an inspection like that does not find numerous or dozens of things that need to be taken care of that are in your best interest for your protection in a new process build, even though it was just a brand new house, newly finished. And so I do highly recommend that. Number 14 is a question I often get as well, which is an inspection required during this process? Generally, the answer is no. Generally, it's your prerogative. There are a few lenders that will require you to have a professional inspector inspect the property prior to purchasing it. But for a few $100s in the scheme of things, when you're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars, I think it is remiss to not have a professional inspector inspect properties. So while you are not technically, most people are not required to have a property professionally inspected, I highly recommend it. The 16th and final thing that I'll address that is a common question that folks have is, what am I required to do as a response to the inspection? Or am I required to fix or repair certain things? And the answer is, Nothing. You are not required to do anything, just like the seller of a property is not required to do anything. This is all about full disclosure. It's all about going in eyes wide open, as I've discussed, and being aware of all those issues. And you decide what you address and what you do not address. So you may decide to and/or even negotiate through the process and get the price down, or have consideration or a credit from a seller, reference an inspection issue that came up, and you may decide to or not to put resources, financial or time or other resources, into repairing or maintaining something. So you may get a credit for something throughout the process. It's totally up to you in the end, once you own that property, whether you move forward and repair or replace or do whatever you're going to do with that. You don't have to do that, but I think in general it's in your best interest to do that, because when you go to sell a property one day, just like the person who sold it to you, they are, first thing that the buyer's going to look at, just like we will with you, is how has this property been maintained? How much love and care and intentionality has been put into this property, which then directly affects the value and the return that you'll get on your investment, because the better a property has been maintained and upkept, there's no question, the more money that you'll get for that property, and the more we're able to yield as far as your investment and your equity in that property. So I strongly encourage people to do a good and studious job maintaining and investing in property over time, and I can help you understand which areas are appropriate to invest in. There's some things that you can add to property or do with property that does not provide a great return compared to the amount that you spend, and other things that provide a huge or multiple times the return. And that's why I want you to reach out to me, is to help you understand those things so I can maximize your value on this property, be an advocate for you, and make sure that you have everything you need to know in order to make the best decisions for yourself. Thanks for taking the time to watch today. Thanks for hanging with me as we covered the 16 things that you should be aware of during the inspection process. I'd love to hear in comments below. If I missed, or if you have a 17th or 18th thing, I would love to hear that from you, as well as topics for other videos that you'd like to hear that I can create for you. It's all about providing value for you in your life. So thanks for hanging in there today. I'll see you on the next video.